time for Dave 101.
All right, the UFO world was put upside down this week as people dug in and took sides after a documentary was created about Luis Elizondo. For people who do not know who Luis Elizondo is, this is the man who came out in 2017 saying that he ran the ATIP program at the Pentagon searching for UFOs. He has since become a very polarized figure within the community, first starting out with the Two of the Stars Academy and then leaving them last year in order to go it alone and be that individual who is going to help ruffle some feathers and ruffle the skins of the politicians who really had no idea that UFOs were actually flying around the United States friendly skies. But there is also some deep questions that Luis Elizondo hasn't answered. Many will say it's due to his non-disclosure agreements that he has. And for all intents and purposes, they're right. He can't. Could you imagine if Lou Elizondo actually told us what we want to hear? The entire world would probably be flipping upside down right now. Because personally, I don't think we're ready for it, especially here in North America, where we're more interested in Instagram and TikTok videos than we are about learning the truth about extraterrestrials. But this documentary that was made, which has since been taken down due to copyright infringement, and will probably be re-edited and reloaded up very, very soon, asks some pertinent questions. Even though I don't support or condone the video, I did not support and condone the fact or give permission for our own interview snippets of spaced out radio interviews with Luis Elizondo. I never gave permission. I thought there were some legitimate questions that needed to be asked. We do need to know what Lou knows. We do need to understand. We do need the ability to ask tough questions. Now, most interviews, and where I will agree with the man who created this documentary, is the majority of interviews Lou Elizondo has done, whether it's on Fox News, CNN, New York Times, or even some piddly podcasts like ours. He hasn't been asked a lot of tough questions. I don't know about you guys. I don't care about the technology. I don't care about the propulsion systems because those do not disclose. What does disclose is who are they, where are they coming from, and how are they going to affect everyday life of humanity if we know the truth. Look, there are a lot of people, and rightfully so out there, who question Lou Elizondo and his honesty and integrity. I do. We all should. Even those who treat him like a demigod should be thinking, why do I trust this man so much? Because spooks are spooks. Spies are spies. All right? And that's what Lou is. He's a counterintelligence officer. And we are allowed to ask questions. We are allowed to ask Lou tough questions. Whether he chooses to answer them or not are up to him. Now, for the record, I will say this. I do believe Mr. Elizondo worked at ATIP. I do believe that he has had a big hand in helping present the UFO story to the politicians in Washington, D.C. I do know that he has talked to other government people around the world regarding this subject to enlighten them on what is going on, not only in the United States, but their own country. I do know that he wants the best for this subject. But what is the best? What is it that we need? Most people out there need to understand there is a large difference between disclosure and confirmation. Huge difference. Confirmation is letting us know that this happens, that this is frequent, that they don't know where it's coming from, but they got their eyes on it, and by golly, we need some taxpayer money in order to study this phenomena. Disclosure is scary for governments. It is. They don't want to give up what they already know. Whether they have extraterrestrials, whether they already have communication, whether they know where the missing people are going, whether they know where those craft are coming from, even though groups like SETI say, oh, we've never picked up a thing. No. Disclosure would tell us what really happened at Roswell, at Shag Harbor, the Phoenix Lights, Kecksburg, every UFO crash in between around North America and maybe the world. That's the disclosure we want. Are we ever going to get it? I highly doubt it. There's too much for the American government and the military to lose. Why would they give it up when they don't have to? Look, we have to be naive to think that the United States military, the Pentagon, and all the alphabet agencies are all of a sudden going to become very Americanized and fill in their citizens on what is really going on. No, confirmation is give the people a little bit and they'll be satisfied. Much like if you're starving for food and somebody gives you a bottle cap of water and a slice of bread, it's going to feel like the best meal you've ever had. And that's the way we have been treating every morsel and every crumb that we have got from people like Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, Mr. George Knapp, people I highly respect. They can only go so far. All right? George Knapp is bound by his journalistic rules. He can't give everything up. Chris Mellon has an NDA. He can't give everything up. Lou Elizondo has an NDA. He can't give anything up. We want the juice. We want the excitement. We want to know that maybe somebody like Elizondo or someone in that UFO program, because there are others, have stood face to face with aliens, much like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We want to know what that's like. We want to know why scientist Gary Nolan at Stanford University is studying the effects of ET contact on the brain. We want to know about that. We need to know. We want to know why people are getting abducted. People are having ET contact. We deserve to know. But do they want us to know? And no, I'm not talking about the aliens here. I'm talking about the government. So when it comes to this documentary, as we start to round it back here for a second, the documentary isn't pleasing. I think it's very opinionated. I think that even though the creator, being this first documentary, did a relatively good job on the research, all right, between the ad hominem attacks and the personal opinion, I think it watered it down of what good it could have been. If he would have called me, I probably would have answered. And many others are like that as well. This isn't a shot at him or anybody supporting him. It's not a shot at those who disagree, like I do. This is just my feelings on a very controversial topic. But don't think for a second, ufology, as much as I am a fan and supporter of Luis Elizondo's, that means that he gets off the hook. For the record, because there are people, and including in that documentary, who said that Luis Elizondo has asked those cushy podcasts for questions up front, for softball questions, lead-in questions to only things he could speak about. With journalistic integrity, I can say that in the 2 times I've interviewed him, he has specifically asked, do not provide him with any questions. He has also specifically stated that he wants tough questions, and he'll answer them the best that he can. That's all you can ever ask from somebody who is sitting in the hot seat getting questions coming to them. But for some reason, in today's day and age, it's not a tough question unless we are calling someone out, pointing our fingers, raising our voices, and saying, "You're lying. Tell us the truth." It's not what it's about at all. You can ask a very tough, pointed question very calmly and more effectively. It's all in how you word it and how your body language is. This is one of the problems with so few real journalists being in the podcast field in this subject. But that doesn't mean that Lou gets a free pass. No one in this field should get a free pass. I have friends on MUFON, on the board of directors. They don't get a free pass. Why should Lou? Has Lou done a lot for this? Absolutely. All right. But that doesn't mean that even though we can respect him and the job he did as a veteran and as someone who brought this topic to the mainstream and became the figurehead of UFOs, it doesn't mean that he gets away with not asking tough questions. Now, in my opinion, this documentary may not have been the way. There could have been better ways to do it. And I hope that next time someone actually does try something like this, that it's more down the road with interviews of people and interviews with people who have knowledge, maybe the man himself. But until then, we're going to continue this ugly debate between ufology, and both sides are going to be angry. Both sides are going to stomp their feet. Both sides are going to throw their arms in the air and call people names and make up stories to suit their agenda. But in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is we don't know who Luis Elizondo is. We don't know his background. And there are certain things we don't need to know. We don't need to know his wife's name. We don't need to know his dog's name. We don't need to know what he drives or what kind of toothpaste he uses in the morning. We don't need to dox him. After all, no matter what, he is a human being and deserves to be treated like that. But you're still allowed to ask him the tough questions, and he still needs to provide a lot of answers for a very, very hungry UFO community. That is your Dave 101. Do me a favor, if you're on YouTube or you're checking this out, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think, because I'm very curious to read your thoughts.